Alright guys, how's she going today? So she's been a very windy day. They're saying wind gusts up to 50 mile an hour. I know that down in the cities I think they've hit 60, but I don't know, it seems like just in the last couple hours the winds has picked up even worse since earlier today. So I'm surprised we haven't lost power yet, given how windy it is. But maybe the power companies are finally watching the frickin' power lines and making sure there's no trees on them. I don't know, because we've had that problem for quite a few years in the past. Every time there was a windstorm, we would always lose frickin' power, and it was out for hours and hours. But maybe they finally keeping better eye on it now. But yeah, you can notice here I got a new headlamp. That's another Energizer, but this is a 400 lumen adjustable light and red light. So if I want to go look for spirits, I can go do that. See, so but yeah, so yeah, so pretty much the point of this video is I'm going to give you guys an update on the old International L130. Usually around this time of the year, I wouldn't even be messing with it, because we would have like 10 feet of snow on the freaking ground by now. But winter's coming. I got it. There was actually some snow down in the cities, and the cities are about an hour and a half from here, so they got a good dusting of snow. So all I got left to do is actually just attach the blower to the tractor and then test it, which I think I'll probably do tomorrow. Given that it's so windy today, I don't feel like opening the big garage door up and then everything comes flying off the walls. And I got the tarps on top of the Tahoe to keep it clean and keep my cats off it, and they'll just go flying away immediately. So I think I'll just do it tomorrow. Winds won't be like this tomorrow, but yeah. So anyways, I was going to put I had gotten some antifreeze, or coolant, whatever you want to call it, for the little Farmall, because I've heard horror stories about them. You know, that of course I think that's if you leave water in there, but if you drain it out, you should be okay. But I went and got some antifreeze and put some antifreeze in it, and whatever. You know, that last video of the Farmall there when I was driving it, and you guys seen the new tire getting dirty. Well, that was the day I put the new coolant in, and then I had put some in the grain truck. But then I noticed I come back, I don't know, a couple days later or something, and I noticed that it was low on coolant. And then I topped it off, and then I ran it really hard that day when I was going through all the gears, and I made that video about going through all the gears, fourth gear and ever. That's when I noticed that it was leaking coolant out the top. It had a little hairline crack on the passenger side in the front. I don't know why it was leaking coolant, because it wouldn't leak the water out, so there's something fishy about that story. And then I noticed my uncle was going to JB weld that crack, and then we noticed down at the bottom where I think it's the return line at the bottom of the engine where the coolant goes through. I think that's the return. I'm not really even sure, but it doesn't really matter. It's at the bottom, and we noticed that it was kind of wet around there. So then we just decided to just take the damn freaking rad back out, and my uncle was just going to JB weld the crap out of everything that we thought was leaking, because we knew about the crack, and then the little round pipe that comes out the bottom there, where your coolant flows to. You got one at the bottom, one at the top. We JB welded all the way around the one at the bottom, because we didn't know where it was leaking for sure. So we just, my uncle, he just smeared it all around it just to see where it was, leaking. Well, he did that, And he said, okay, it's laying there, you can go put it back in. So I put it back in. It took me about an hour to put it back in, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Of course, some things are fighting me, obviously, but and I was doing this in the dark, so you know how it is. But so I put it back in. I think we had tried to save what we could for coolant because it was low because it had leaked most of it out. At the time, we thought it was just the rad alone that maybe was leaking. Maybe it was leaking on the bottom now somewhere where we didn't see, because you could tell that down there where the neck come out, the bottom, even on the frame of the truck, it seemed kind of wet. It wasn't sopping wet, but it seemed like it was damp. It's like, so maybe there's a very tiny leak going on, but then then you had the one on the top. But then I was trying to wonder, like, well, why? So you look at it now, it leaked a lot of coolant out in just a short amount of time. So, but I put the thing back in last night, and then today I filled it up with coolant. And then I had about a gallon that we managed to save from the truck, and I threw that back in to kind of help. But I'm down about a gallon because I lost about a gallon because of the new leak that we have. Yep, there is a new leak on this truck, and there's nothing I ain't doing nothing about it now. It's too late in the year to be fucking with it, and I'm not playing with it. So so I noticed that it was starting to leak again. I was like, well, there's a wet spot running along the engine, and there's a mount there. It was running along the mount and then running to the frame, and then of course then dripping onto the ground and disappearing. And it was a good drip. It wasn't coming out like a fountain or like a river or anything, but it was kind of almost a steady drip, just kind of like that. That's kind of just what it was doing. So like, well, it's still a good sized drip, but trying to figure out where the hell it's coming from, because it's like, well, the rad's not leaking. I don't know if there's any water or any coolant coming out of anywhere. And I was actually going to maybe try to start it. I don't think it would have started today, given that it's like only like 25 out. But they are talking a couple days that's going to be in the high 40s and low 50s, so that would be a good day to start it. But then I noticed a drip. So then I'm diagnosing it, trying to figure it out, and sure as freaking shit, I'm not really sure what it is yet. I got video of it, so I'll post it here. But I think the gasket went out on the water pump. I think there's a rubber or something gasket there, some kind of a gasket anyway. That, I don't know if it's been bad the whole time, or if it just started going out now, or what the fucking deal is. But the thing I don't understand, and I can't think of any excuses here, really, or anything for that matter, because when I have just straight water in it, it does zero leaking out of the water pump or anywhere. It doesn't leak anywhere. But then as soon as you put fucking coolant in it, it leaks. It finds every little crevice that it can leak from, and it does it. So I'm confused to why water won't leak out. And yet the truck was cold, and then the truck was hot with water and coolant. And the only way that I knew that was leaking coolant out the top of the rad, where the crack was at, was because there was coolant coming out. I was like, okay, there's a crack. Oh, that's an easy fix because it's right there at the top. We don't have to pull nothing out. Okay, that would be a fixed job with just some simple JB weld. The hell with welding it or whatever, So we just JB weld everything. Say fuck it, good enough. So he did that. We put it all back together. Okay, I filled it up. I didn't notice it leaking anywhere else. But then I noticed that there's a wet spot, running along a mount that's near the water pump. And sure enough, I can see it dripping, and it looks like it's between the water pump and the block. So that's telling me that it's either a gasket, the gasket is cracked, which, you know, for given the age of the truck, it would be understandable for it to take a shit, but it has to take a shit now. And, you know, I don't even know if you can find that gasket anywhere. I mean, you can make your own, get your own gasket maker. I did that with the Rain Trucks, the head, and then the valve cover gasket. I think it was the, you know, I just use that make your own gasket shit, you know, that's in a little squeezable bottle, you know, you just squeeze it out, and then, you know, it's own. I don't think that's a very permanent gasket maker stuff. Like, it's not as good as, you know, an actual gasket, but it's a good temporary fix. I've had no issues since doing it with that, but, you know, it starts to fail, then you have to take it apart and then either do it all over again or try to find the correct gasket for it. But yeah, so I don't know. It's telling me, I think pretty much no matter what, I'm going to have to pull the water pump out. And regardless if the gasket's bad or not, I have to take it out and inspect it to see if it's actually a gasket or if it's cracked. If it's got like a little crack in it. If it's got a crack, probably could just JB weld it and be done. But if it's just a gasket, okay, no big deal. You can just get some gasket maker and there you go. Problem solved. So, in other words, the truck is going to be sitting empty for the year. Not that that's nothing new, because I ran water in it for a couple of years and I've always drained it out. So, it's not a huge deal, but it's just the fact that it wasn't leaking any water, so I figured, okay, maybe it's done, you know, doing whatever it's doing from sitting for so many years. You know, things are starting to adjust again and move, and, you know, things are coming back to life, so things are naturally going to leak. So we're going, okay, well, it's not leaking any water. But then when you seem to put freaking coolant on, or, you know, you put coolant in it, or antifreeze, whatever you want to call it, it just pisses it out everywhere. It's unfreaking believable. And it did that twice on me, because I put coolant in it. I think last year, I think I did it. And I come back, I think, like, I don't even know how many days it was. It was quite a few days. I come back to the damn thing being empty and a big dead spot underneath the truck because it killed all the freaking grass. So I was like, what the fuck? You know? Of course, stupid me didn't really think to refill it with coolant. Now, I'm not doing that because that coolant's expensive and I have, like, literally none left. I got to go get another jug now just for myself. So, yeah, I can't believe it, you know. So, it doesn't leak when there's water in it. I don't understand it. It doesn't leak when there's water in it, but when there's coolant in it, it leaks. And it was leaking and the truck was not even running. It was pissing out or leaking or dripping out of the water pump, where it's bolted to the engine. So that's possibly telling me that the gasket took a shit, or it's been shit for however many years. Could have been one reason out of 50,000 why they stopped driving it, because, you know, gaskets are going out, but they're not really that big of a deal to replace. It's just, you know, taking everything out. You got to pull the fucking rad back off. You got to pull the fucking fan back off. Take the belts off. Like, holy! I mean, there's a lot of work there to do, you know, just to get to the stinking water pump. So, I don't know. And then on top of that, we don't have the thermostat in it, because it was never in there when I took the truck apart. It was never in there, so I don't know if that's the reason why the temperature gauge isn't moving, but it's stuck on hot anyway, so I'm thinking that the gauge is probably bad. But I don't know where you could go to buy another gauge like that, because the only gauge that works on that cluster is the amp. that tells you, if you're charging your batteries or not. Well, that's the only thing that's working on that truck. I don't have fuel gauge, no oil pressure, and then I think there was another one. I don't remember what the fuck it was, but it's not working either. The only one that's working is the amp gauge, which is, at least all right. At least I know it's charging. But I would like to know my oil pressure. I would like to know my water temperature, and so on and so on. So I think I was trying to remove that whole cluster one time, but it's just like you can't get it out. So I'm not really even sure, but I don't even know where the hell you can even find another gauge like that would work for that truck. So I don't know if you can find another original one, or if they make like some kind of an aftermarket one. I'd rather have like an original one, but original parts are getting hard to find for anything. So if nobody really wants to make them anymore, I don't know how anybody restores anything, because I don't know of any websites or any companies that make original parts. I know that there's Steiner, but they only work on tractors. They don't do trucks. I need one for trucks. So, but I don't know. It's the damnedest thing I've seen. Because it won't do it when there's water in it. It won't do it when it's cold, won't do it when it's hot. But as soon as you put coolant in it, it just comes pissing out. And it was understandable when it was running, because everything was getting super hot and things were expanding and moving and shifting and yada yada yada. That's how I knew about the crack, because there's coolant coming out of it. But I think it not only was it leaking there, I think it was also leaking by the water pump. I just didn't notice it until today, when I filled it up, and then I was looking around for leaks. Just happened to look at the engine, and I was like, well, there's a damn wet spot here, and it's running along from the engine block to the frame. So then I start, backtracking it, and I kind of bend my head to kind of look down under, and I could see a drip. So I was like, well, that's great fucking news. So I don't know. I think you're going to have to pull the water pump regardless. I don't know if I can get a new gasket for that, or if I'm going to have to just get that gasket maker shit again. Got a feeling I'm going to have to get the gasket maker. That's pretty much the only thing I can do. That would be quick and easy. So yeah, other than that, I don't know. Trying to figure out what I did with the other. That's the antenna. I was looking for the other. Oh yeah, there it is. I had a gasket kit for the Farmall. I don't know what I did with it. I guess I put it there. So, but I don't know. You guys tell me. I have no clue. But I think the gasket took a shit. But it could have been out for a long time. But why is it only doing it when there's coolant in it, or antifreeze, but not water? Because you think you would notice that. You just think you would notice water leaking out. So I don't know. And I forgot to blow my garden hose out. But we got 50s coming up here, so hopefully it'll be alright until then. This whole thing's leaking anyway, but I don't know. So I haven't blown out my garden hose yet. And it's cold. It's snowing. When I was working on the grain truck, I was trying to drain all the fucking coolant back out. It started sleeting on me, which is basically mini hail. And as soon as it touches anything, it melts. So I'm drenched. My overalls are drenched. I'm wearing my other hat, because my other hat that I wear during hunting season is wet. I have an orange hat because I've been wearing that for a lot of years too, and I bought this one, but I wear my orange hat during hunting season just so I don't get sniped at. So, but I don't know. It's hunting season. It started back on the 5th. That's when it started. and it runs for about 9 days for deer hunting. I think that's for using a rifle. I don't know about anything else, but for rifles, it's for 9 days. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess you guys will just have to kind of, I guess, tell me what you think. But she's a leaker, but it won't do it with freaking water. So I don't know. So I'm not going to put any more coolant in it until we get this coolant leak fixed. And then after that, I got to get that valve for the hydraulics on it. I got to get that. Somebody has to fix it or something because it leaks. You know, it bled all the hydraulic oil out all summer long, so there's no hydraulic oil in it. There was just enough to raise the bed up, just enough so that if you needed to add more hydraulic oil, you could do it. But then I blocked it up too, so it couldn't try to leak any more out. It's not coming out of the cylinders. It's coming out of the valve because the valve's completely soaked. And then I had that metal rod attached to it. That's how I would operate the valve. It was all slimy too. The lever, the rod that I had attached to it, it was all slimy. It was all slimed. So, you know, it's covered in hydraulic oil. So it's been leaking. So I'm not going to add any more hydraulic oil to that, I guess, until I can find somebody that can maybe rebuild it or something. I don't know. It probably just needs some new gaskets in it, O-rings or something, but what would fit in there, I have no clue. I just, you know, but I'm not going to worry about it anymore this year. It's a done deal. The truck refuses to hold antifreeze, but it'll hold water just fine. But it won't hold coolant, so I'm not really sure what the hell's going on, why it likes one over the other, but I don't know. So, but I guess that'll have to be a next year project, I guess, for that truck. Pull the water pump out. Before I do that, I'm going to see if I can find a gasket for her. Either I'm going to have to use Gasket Maker and just use that, and then put it back together and see if that fixes the problem. Double check it for cracks, I guess. See what the hell's going on. I don't know. It's a hell of a thing, though. It's one freaking problem after another. I want to put new tires on it, but I don't know. It's gonna need new tires eventually. I think that even the one that leaks, it goes flat by next summer. It'll be flat. But you could tell it was already starting to get low on air. I think it's mostly because of the cold too. But it'll be flat before spring. But whatever. Kind of just, it is what it is. So, but whatever. I'll get a couple new tires for it. Maybe we'll see what the hell happens. But gotta fix coolant leaks and stuff like that so I can drive it and not worry about it, you know, pissing antifreeze all over the place. But managed to salvage 2 gallons of it, and then obviously it must have leaked out at least a gallon of it onto the ground. So I don't know. It's just getting to be annoying. So that's what's going on. The truck is still a leaker, but since I drained all the coolant out, now it doesn't leak. But I don't know. I guess I'll worry about it next year. I gotta try to get the blower on hopefully tomorrow for the John Deere and test it. I haven't tested it yet, but it is up there. But I did finish greasing it too, so all I gotta do is attach it to the tractor and test it, and it'll be ready. So, but I don't know. You guys can probably hear the wind. I don't know. It's like hurricane force winds out here. If they're hitting 60 miles an hour here at times, well, then that's pretty close to a Category 1 hurricane. Because I think to qualify as a Category 1, I think you need to be at least above 70 miles an hour. And that's just for a Category 1 hurricane. So you can probably hear it now. it's just insane. So, but I guess, guys, I'm going to take off. I just wanted to give you guys a little update to what the hell's going on, and yeah, it's just going to be a leaker. I don't know, it won't leak the water, so I might just run water in it, but I'll have to run coolant in it because I don't have to keep freaking draining it all the time. I can just leave it in there all year round and not worry about it. But the farm all day, I put coolant in that, and we'll find out if that thing pisses it all out come spring. But I had filled it up, and then, like I said, ran it, and I didn't really notice anything wet. So I even checked it when I shut it off, and it was still plumb full. So at least the farm wall's not leaking coolant. So I am going to get another front steer tire for that, though, for the other one now, for the other side, because that one is just bald, is all bald. So I might as well replace it and have 2 decent tires on it. So, and then got to try to find either that valve, that exhaust valve thing for it, or we're going to have to try to see if we can put a hydraulic pump on it or something for the lift. And then I might actually try to cut a little bit of hay with it next year, because you don't need the lift thing really. I think it is all the way down. I think if you just unfold it, then it should technically just, you know, put the cutter bar right on the ground, and then you can cut with it. So I might come back here next spring too, and maybe see if I can use my air compressor and try to push air through it and see if it would actually lift it up or not. That's what the young guy said to do, but he said to use something with a rubber tip on it. Well, I don't have any air guns that have rubber tips. I had one, but then the rubber tip blew off, and then not long after, then the whole gun just took a shit. So that's why I got a new one, and this one's adjustable. So I don't know, but I'll just stick it in there, force some air through it, and then see if it even raises. If not, well, then it's probably, then the whole thing is screwed. But he said that'd be a good thing to do too, because he says you can test it obviously, but then if it should leak down, which I don't know, it probably would leak down anyway, because the air's not going to be able to stay in there. It's going to just come right back out where I shot it in. So, but if it should, you know, kind of bleed down a little bit on its own, or, you know, like really quick or something, well, then he says the seals inside might be bad, but he says they probably shouldn't be too bad to replace. But I don't know. We're not familiar with that stuff, so right now I just want to get it running. Well, I'd like to put that valve thing back on, either that or I got to put a hydraulic pump on it, but I don't know. So I don't know. But anyways, guys, I guess I'm going to take off. Just want to give you guys a little update to the International grain truck there, L130. She's still a pisser. She ain't holding coolant, so she'll hold water fine, but she won't hold the coolant. So I don't know what the hell that's about. So it looks like it's leaking from the water pump because it drips. So I guess I'm gonna have to be pulling the water pump off and trying to find a new gasket for it. Probably try to find one first before ripping it apart. And then if I can't find one, well, then I'll have to use the gasket maker and then be good done. That's all I can do. So yeah, anyways, guys, I guess I'm going to take off. So I guess yeah, have a good day and stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take her easy.